Couple questions. And I think my thinking's consistent with you. It becomes rather complex if you start transporting it across your city borders and maybe even suggesting that it be transported across your state and maybe even over international borders. So that's my fear. With regard to transporting across the state, I think what you're saying is there's a patchwork of laws and jurisdictions that you'd be passing through. And one jurisdiction might have a set of laws that are different than another jurisdiction, say 2 counties. Is that what you're saying? And that could create kind of a nightmare for law enforcement? And
absolutely, and I think
elaborate on that.
Absolutely, I think it arguably is unfair to a dispensary owner or a collective to believe that because one city said within their ordinance it's okay to do this, but it's not someplace else, and you go set up someplace else as your point of cultivation, you're really going to be in conflict with the ordinance where you're cultivating, not necessarily the city in which your collective operates, but you do run the risk then of having an individual who gets arrested by law enforcement using as their defense, but the city of Long Beach told me it was okay. And I think any city runs that risk if they allow for cultivation outside of their city borders.
So if I go up to Arcata, I pick up a few pounds of marijuana, what you're saying is then my intention is to transport it south. And as a side note, I do recall some articles in the LA Times where they showed homes in Arcata being rented out for the sole purpose of growing marijuana, and they were actually ruining the homes. People were not living in them. They're full of marijuana, and it was a game changer for the whole community ultimately. But if I pick up that marijuana in Arcata and I head south and I'm in Monterey County, what happens if I get pulled over?
It could depend on, as Detective Walsh indicated, because of the lack sometimes of understanding as to how to interpret the law, a number of things could happen. That individual, you could be arrested for transporting illegally, even if you claim, but I'm a member of a collective. The body of case law doesn't permit, under California state law, the ability to transport on behalf of the collective. It only allows one to transport on behalf of the individual or a primary caregiver. I can read you the language right out of the California case Trippett that says the test should be whether the quantity transported, the method, timing, and distance of the transportation are reasonably related to the patient's current medical needs. So the only verb that exists under the Health and Safety Code under .775, which allows for the collective or cooperative cultivation, is the word cultivate. That's the only thing they're allowed to do, not transport, not sell, nothing else. So you can see that someone living in a city that allows the collectives and allows off-site cultivation anywhere could run into a situation where they run into law enforcement outside of that city who won't accept the Long Beach City Ordinance or any other city's ordinance and will say, look, it doesn't matter what that city allows you to do. You're not there. You're here. And we're going to enforce the ordinance and the laws as they're applied here. And you run into inconsistent ordinances at that point. And that becomes unfair, I think, to everyone involved.
Essentially, you could be legal in Long Beach, but illegal in Monterey County.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then again, there's that 8-ounce. You spoke to something about a maximum of 8 ounces. Still, there's the 8-ounce test.
Right. The California Supreme Court just recently decided that the quantity limit only applies to medical marijuana program card holders, not those that didn't apply for the card.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about the cartel factor? As I see our ordinance, the marijuana could come from anywhere. It could come across our borders.
That's correct.
Can you speak to that experience and what the ultimate implication of that could be? Because that's my grand fear. My fear is that the cartels could get a stronghold in Long Beach, and that will change our city forever.
What we have seen is that the typical off-site cultivation location tends to be indoors. It tends to be in suburban areas. It does, as you pointed out, destroy the residents. We have found ample connection to local gangs that pay taxes to the Mexican mafia. We have found ample connection to other forms of organized crime. I think the Los Angeles City Attorney's own example, where they had several different purchases of medical marijuana from different City of Los Angeles dispensaries, analyzed and found that they contained an insecticide that's not used in the United States and is not legal in the United States, but it is in Mexico. And it wasn't on the plant. And there's a certain argument that people make, well, you could use an insecticide by bringing the insecticide over to the United States, cultivating here, and spraying it on the plant to kill whatever you want to kill. But it was tested, and it's actually in the plant. And the only way it gets in the plant is by engaging in the brownout effect of that insecticide, which essentially what they do south of the border is they put the insecticide on the ground to destroy everything in that area, then they cultivate on top of it once everything's destroyed. That's how it gets into the plant itself. It gets absorbed into the plant. In all 6 locations that they did this test, they found this particular insecticide. So I think your fears are valid. If you only permit cultivation within the city borders of Long Beach, you certainly then have a far better chance. That's not to say that some collectives won't still try to import, but you have a much better chance of having the medicinal marijuana cultivated within your city borders and allow law enforcement a far better opportunity to regulate it and ensure that it's safe and it's appropriate for the citizens of Long Beach.
So, in a very simple manner, what's your advice?
My advice would be to have it grown on site, and or within the city borders of Long Beach and not beyond.
Thank you.